Central Texas has been absolutely ravaged by a flood disaster that will go down in the history books. And today I want to kind of decipher a little bit of what exactly happened and the different mechanisms in play from a weather standpoint, especially since, as we all know, social media is ablaze right now with the working theories, the self proclaimed subject matter experts that run rampant, especially when it comes to severe weather, whether it be tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, any kind of natural disaster. Right now, if you're watching this video, the bottom line here is we have to assist every way that we can. A big metaphor or a line that I live by is we can only do so much to prepare for Mother Nature outside of simply trying to get out of the way. But what we do control is our response to what Mother Nature throws at us. So thoughts, prayers, positive vibes, and whatever else you may be able to give fiscally and physically to those areas deeply impacted by the floods out there, that's going to be your key takeaway from this video. But from a science standpoint, I wanted to show you something. So do we all remember Barry? This is the final advisory that dissipated on June 30th of 2025. This was short-lived tropical storm. A lot of folks out there on the social medias truthfully mentioned it shouldn't have even been named. But I stand firm in my belief that National Hurricane Center, as the subject matter experts, first of all, we're no one to step on their toes. And on top of that, if it looks like a tropical cyclone, behaves like a tropical cyclone, even if it's not another Charlie or an Ian or an Idalia or a Milton, we got to classify them. With my background in Air Force synoptic meteorology, I had a lot of fun doing analysis and characterizing certain weather features out there. And I think National Hurricane Center made the right call by designating this a named storm, despite it only being on the map for what felt like a snap of a finger. Now, the reason I bring this up is I'm going to pull you over to our link system here. Where Barry fell apart over the higher terrain of upper Mexico, it kind of goes back to that conservation of energy law that you probably heard of back in science class many years ago. Or maybe you're rocking through it right now and it's actually applicable here in this scenario. Barry's circulation was completely washed out. Tropical features, they do not like rough terrain. They act like a cheese grater, just serrating that thing from the bottom up. It destroys it almost altogether. That's why, if you remember, even Hurricane Eric, when it made landfall, if you look at a satellite shot of it, such an impressive hurricane, it's almost like it was vaporized as soon as it made its way ashore. So going back to my conservation of energy, the moisture and the spin that was associated with Barry, despite the circulation being completely chewed up, all that has to go somewhere. And if you look at the flow here, where Barry made landfall and was last identified, if you will, it was being pulled towards the north. So even though we lost the low pressure, all that moisture, all that energy has to go somewhere. And as a result, we kind of created a bit of a pinch zone. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So we have an upper low. That's parts of the fragments that generated Chantal off our east coast. We had an upper trough and a front down at the surface. It was left to marinate over the Gulf Stream waters immediately off the east coast of the United States. And as some of that energy continued to break off and become pieces upon pieces of just energy and moisture in the atmosphere, we got a tropical cyclone on one side of the spectrum, but then well above where we are at the surface or at the lowest portions of the atmosphere, we had another bubble of counterclockwise spin break away and slowly start to move towards the west. At the same time, over the desert southwest, the Four Corners area, my old stomping grounds, we have our anticyclone there, highlighted by the A with the arrows, running clockwise around it. That's what helps to generate the southwest monsoon. Their monsoon season is alive and kicking. So we have moisture being pulled in from one side, moisture being pulled in from another side. And then if you look, thanks to the low-level pattern where we found Barry, after that system dissipated, we had just a triple point convergence. I just made that up. There is such thing as a triple point in weather, but in this case, not applicable. This, what I mean is we have three different, I would argue four different moisture sources just being squished and hammered together right over central Texas. So you take a look at what's called your precipitable water. This is how much water's up in the atmosphere that if conditions are correct, in this case they were more than correct, it will fall as rain. And if you notice, the overlay here shows an enormous concentration right about where we saw the greatest accumulation of our rainfall, coming in from all sorts of different directions, off the Rockies, out of the plains, out of the Gulf, and then down from the south as a result of Tropical Storm Barry. And unfortunately, from what I've read, I'm not incredibly familiar with the topography of Texas, but it kind of works against them in terms of the way the river basins out there are oriented and the general terrain between higher and lower elevation portions. All that water just had to collect somewhere. Unfortunately, that's why waters rose as fast as they did within 45 minutes to an hour. So, like I said, this is just a little bit of a crash course of what went down from a weather standpoint. National Weather Service has done what they could to try to get the word out. It's kind of, again, I go back to the give and take analogy with all things weather. You give a little, but you're going to have to take a little. You're going to have to, you get a little and you give a little to Mother Nature, the atmosphere, if you will. It's all about keeping things in a state of equilibrium. Even though we didn't have a bona fide tropical system pushing up in there like we had Beryl this time last year, in this case, the remnants of a tropical feature combined with winning the atmospheric lottery, just everything coming together to create that perfect storm scenario, like Sandy in 2012. It just creates cataclysmic events like this. And National Weather Service did accrue about 3 hours of lead time to give those folks as much of a heads up as possible to get things moving in the right direction. I will say, though, again, give and take. Those flash flood warnings, they don't necessarily tell you, is it going to be a foot of water or is it going to be 20 feet of water? And I think that's where a lot of us can just take some key learning lessons away to just continue to improve, just get better on the learning curve as we go through time. And that's what life is all about.